The first time it happened, I thought I had misheard her. The house was quiet except for the ticking of an old clock hanging in the hallway. Sunlight slipped through the curtains, painting soft patterns across the wooden floor. It should have felt familiar. Instead, it felt like a place filled with ghosts. I hadn't been inside that house since Rachel and I ended our relationship. Some memories refused to leave quietly. As I stood near the doorway, preparing to leave, Rachel's mother stepped toward me. Her hands trembled slightly. Her eyes looked tired in a way sleep could never fix. Then she leaned closer and whispered something that made my heart stop. "Michael, can you take me somewhere private? Please." There was no flirtation in her voice. No hidden agenda. Only fear. Raw, desperate fear. For a moment, I froze. My mind raced through 1,000 possibilities. Had something happened? Was she in danger? Was there news about Rachel? But the look in her eyes told me this was something far deeper. Something she had been carrying alone for far too long. And somehow, she had chosen me to tell. Before this story continues, take a moment to support the channel. If you believe kindness can change lives, if you believe compassion still matters in a world that often feels cold, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that humanity still exists. My name is Michael Carter. Several years ago, I thought the hardest thing I would ever do was walk away from the woman I loved. I was wrong. Rachel Thompson and I met in Savannah, Georgia, when we were young enough to believe love alone could solve everything. We spent long summer evenings walking beside the river, talking about dreams that seemed endless. We made promises about the future, convinced we would grow old together. But life has a way of testing promises. As the years passed, our paths slowly drifted apart. There was no betrayal. No screaming matches. No dramatic ending. Just two people realizing they wanted different futures. When the relationship finally ended, it felt less like a breakup and more like watching a beautiful house slowly collapse. Painfully. Silently. I moved on. At least that's what I told myself. Rachel eventually relocated across the country. We stopped calling. We stopped texting. And little by little, we became strangers. But there was one connection I never completely lost. Her mother. Margaret Thompson had always treated me like family. She was the kind of woman who baked extra pies for neighbors. The kind who remembered birthdays without needing reminders. The kind who helped people quietly, without expecting recognition. Even after Rachel and I separated, Margaret occasionally called when she needed help fixing something around the house. A broken fence. A leaking faucet. Heavy grocery bags. Small things. Harmless things. Or so I believed. That afternoon, however, felt different. The moment I looked into her eyes, I knew something was terribly wrong. So I agreed. I helped her into my car, and together we drove to a quiet riverside park outside town. Neither of us spoke during the drive. The silence felt heavier than words. When we finally reached the park, we sat on a weathered wooden bench beneath towering oak trees draped in Spanish moss. The river flowed peacefully nearby. But Margaret was falling apart. For several minutes, she simply stared at the water. Then the tears came. And once they started, they wouldn't stop. What she told me next changed everything. Her husband, Thomas Thompson, had passed away nearly a year earlier. Since then, loneliness had become her constant companion. The house that once felt full of laughter now echoed with silence. Rachel lived thousands of miles away. Phone calls had become rare. Friends had slowly drifted away. Medical bills were stacking up. Her health was declining. And every night, she sat alone at the kitchen table wondering if anyone would notice if she disappeared. Listening to her broke my heart. Not because I had all the answers, but because I realized how many people suffer in silence while the world keeps moving around them. At that moment, I faced a choice. Walk away and protect my own comfort. Or stay. Not as Rachel's ex-boyfriend. Not as some hero. Just as another human being willing to listen. I chose to stay. And neither of us knew that decision would change both of our lives forever.